28 Years Later is the long-awaited sequel to Danny Boyle's 28 Days Later. Full transparency, I do not like 28 Days Later. I know it is a very famous movie with the visual effects, the running infected sort of added a new sort of meta to zombies. These, the rage virus does spread really quickly, but it also causes infected to want to eat things too. So they are zombies. You can't say, oh, they're infected, but they basically are zombies. They just are their origin point is different from Romero, basically. It's a different kind of terror. Not the slow, creepy one, but it's the fast-running hordes. So that movie, I didn't quite enjoy it because of, whatever. It's decent, but I don't like it. 28 Weeks Later, on the other hand, I find it to be a superior sequel because it ups the stakes and it turns it into like an action fest. I really like the, hordes of creatures running around and adding some world building and stuff like that. And it's a star-making vehicle for Jeremy Renner. But 28 Years Later takes place literally 28 years after the initial infection. We're following an island community. Don't know what the name is, but we're following a family. There's Jamie, the father, his wife, Isla, who's got a sickness that they don't really know about, and then their son Spike. He's 12 and he's now old enough to go to the mainland. So they go to the mainland to forage and to just get some training done. So the first part of this movie is essentially like a post-apocalyptic horror thriller, like a simple adventure story. It's very similar to like Last of Us, the video game, or God of War, the new one, where you got the parent, you've got the kid, and they're going on a hunting trip. But instead of hunting for deer, they're hunting infected. And literally very dangerous. I don't know why they did that. But then the movie turns into a different kind of film. Kind of slows things down and turns the emotional wheel a little bit and starts changing the dynamic between the characters. And some people might not be into that, but I felt it was an interesting sort of nuanced sort of change of pace and tone. However, the movie ends on a rather ridiculous, ambitious note that leaves a sour taste in your mouth. I mean, the movie just simply is trying too hard to do too much. You start off, I don't know if this was an intentional subversion from Alex Garland, because it's the same writer of the first movie. So the movie starts as your usual, action, adventure, horror, survival movie, and then it turns into a more emotional tale. It still has the action, but then it's going for a different vibe. But then the movie just ends with a giant insult, and it almost feels like the movie jumped the shark, essentially. It really feels like there was no real reason to have that in there, to be ridiculous, to be silly, to point a giant middle finger at the audience. Honestly, felt a little bit weird and out of place, kind of the same way the Joker 2 movie was from 2024. So even though the movie has a monster budget of like 70 million, I don't know why they needed that much, but I really like the whole nomadic sort of setting of the movie, and then it changes some dynamics between the characters, so it feels like three movies shoved into one, basically. They do introduce a new character from the outside, but he's quickly gotten rid of, so I didn't really like that. The movie just seemed kind of silly at times, but also like breathtakingly beautiful. But it didn't quite stick the landing. And honestly, that landing, you need to have that, because they plan to make like a whole bunch more of these. They've already filmed another sequel back-to-back called The Bone Temple. And this movie's already a disappointment. So that movie's now at risk, even though it was made for a lesser budget. So overall, 28 Years Later is something else. It's definitely not good. In my opinion, I felt it definitely was reaching for some weird, I don't know what he was doing, to be honest. The director just seemed like he was on drugs or something. I don't know. But, whatever. 28 Years Later, I give it a 5 out of 10.